Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. It's another one of our season previews, and today we're going to be looking at the Cork footballers and the hurlers a little bit later as well. Obviously, the footballers last year beaten in the All-Ireland quarterfinals and avoided relegation narrowly on the last day with that win over Offaly, which kept them in Division 2 and away from the Tailteann Cup. I've got Matthew Hurley from the GAA Statsman podcast to run through the Cork footballers and the hurlers a little bit later as well. Matthew, how's things with yourself? And obviously, we've been discussing a lot of the club action recently and everything else. So I suppose an inter-county season now fastly approaches. What's your thoughts and feelings going into it?
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Aaron. Yeah, the whole cycle goes around. We're back into the inter-county game. Yeah, the Cork footballers, massive team to support and stuff like that, the highs and the lows. And yeah, we'll be just hoping we won't have much drama in Division 2 this season, and much like last season where we're waiting until match day 6 to actually get a win against Down. But look, it's another season, it's another challenge for these Cork footballers. A new management team, of course, John Cleary, Kevin Walsh is a coach as well, so should be very interesting here. We've seen it all before. Cian O'Neill coming in as coach as well a few seasons ago, so hopefully Walsh doesn't have that particular impact, and hope he has a good impact on the team itself. But look, for the Cork footballers, I'll be positive enough looking ahead to the year. In terms of beating Kerry, that's not going to happen next year, or even this year, or even the third year after that. I don't think it's going to happen because this Kerry team is unbelievable. But in terms of development, I think if we finish mid-table in Division 2, that's all we can ask for out of this Cork team. And yeah, looking forward to discussing it with you.
Yeah, and I suppose looking at last year, first of all, obviously, as you mentioned, they were in Division 2, avoiding relegation. I mean, it's been a strange couple of years for Cork football, hasn't it? Because, I mean, you think back to 2020 with that win over Kerry, obviously beaten by Tipperary in the Munster final. Even in 2019, I remember you had a fair few young players coming into the side, getting to the Super 8s, even gave Dublin a run for their money a little bit in the Super 8s that year. And in 2021, last year, or 2021 and 2022, just a bit of a regression really for Cork football. So it's been a sort of strange couple of years. Like, you've had some good moments and good results, but you've also had some very odd results as well. Like, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and imagine supporting the Cork footballers the last couple of years.
To be honest, Aaron, it's been a roller coaster ever since we won the All-Ireland in 2010, and we haven't been competitive properly, I would think, since 2014 when we played Mayo in the quarterfinal. We got very close to them. Even 2015, when we should have beat Kerry and Killarney, we have not developed since then. 2016 was the start of that. We got relegated from Division 1, and we lost to Tipperary for the first time since the 1940s. That was just a low point in Cork football. We had Padder Healy that time, then with Ronan McCarthy. Nothing really improved despite the result against Kerry. And I've argued so many times on your podcast, the 2019 performance was actually better against Kerry. I think 2020, looking back on it, was very, very lucky the way we won that game. And yeah, 2021 was very poor, but 2022, I think there was a few downs at the start of the year, especially. Like, you look at the league performances, like especially against Derry, against Meath. Look, it was very, very bad showing. Roscommon as well. Some poor performances, and as I mentioned already, we didn't get a win until match day 6 against Down. But that was a crucial win. It was a crucial win in turning around our season. You could see the expression of the players once they stayed up Division 2, and a lot of people were laughing at that. But look, that Cian Coyley point against Offaly and Tullamore could be a huge turning point in Cork football, because if he didn't score that, we would have been down in the Tailteann Cup. It might suit other teams, but it doesn't suit Cork. It won't progress us even further to where we want to be. And where we want to be is, getting better in Croke Park, getting to all Ireland quarterfinals and even semi-finals on a regular basis. And we wouldn't have done that if we got into the Tailteann Cup. So that Cian Kiley kick was probably one of the most important kicks of the year, not just for Cork football in terms of its importance. Then in the championship, look, against Kerry and Dublin, we were always going to lose those games. But the performance, I'd be looking at the performance of the team, and I thought we were admirable, to be honest with you. Against Kerry, we performed for 40 minutes, and then it wasn't a capitulation or anything. We just didn't have the fitness. And John Cleary and Keith Ricken have referenced this. To get up to the level of the Kerrys, the Armaghs, the Dublins, the Derrys, the Galways, the Tyrones, we need to develop our strength and conditioning. We haven't done that in the last few years, under Ronan McCarthy particularly. I feel with this management team, with John Cleary, with Kevin Walsh coming in as a coach there, Rob Heffernan also coming as a performance coach, he'll improve the fitness of the players as well, hopefully. He's an Olympic athlete after all. So, hopefully we're turning a corner now, but we have to start off with being competitive in this Division 2. I honestly think Derry and Dublin are way ahead of us when you look at the top two. I think we should be competing with the likes of Kildare, Clare, Meath. We have to compete with those counties and beat Limerick and Louth. We have to do that straight up to, develop even further, or else last year would have been a bit of a waste of time. So we have to, stamp our authority in Division 2 from the off and see where it goes from there. But this year, I think, will be another year of progression. It won't be a year where we reach a quarterfinal or a semi-final. That'll be in the next few years, but this year, just about keeping your feet on the ground and staying in Division 2 and maybe challenging a small bit for promotion as well.
Yeah, Gavin says if Cork got somehow relegated, would they win the Tailteann Cup? I suppose that's one of them things where you cross the bridge if it comes. But I think if Cork were to end up in the Tailteann Cup, I think it's like it just would be a massive, massive regression. And there'll be some good teams in the Tailteann Cup as well. Like it's not even given that they would win it, but I suppose it's one of them things where you sort of cross that bridge when it comes. But looking at Division 2, as you said there, and obviously looking at your form last year when things sort of did change, obviously Keith Ricken had to step away due to health concerns. We obviously all wish him the best, and hopefully he makes a speedy recovery and everything else. John Cleary's come in, and as you said, like there was a bit of a kick to Cork again. There was a bit of a bite to Cork. Like you obviously got through those games at the end of Division 2. You got past Louth and Limerick in the qualifiers. A good performance against Kerry and even against Dublin as well. Like I remember being at that game in the first half. Like although Dublin sort of waltzed the victory in the end in the second half and probably didn't play particularly well, still it was a good showing from Cork at the same time, and it wasn't a 10, 15, 20 point hammering that a lot of people suggested.
Exactly so, and you have to take the positives from that. And even the stats of games that I did against Dublin and Kerry, we actually had more turnovers than both Dublin and Kerry, and they ended up in the All-Ireland semi-final playing probably one of the biggest games of the year. That's the level we need to get at. And I agree on your point. In the first half, I thought we competed very well, especially against Dublin and against Kerry as well, where we were up for it from the off. And another thing which you would increase the confidence as a Cork fan as well. We didn't concede much goal chances across the both games. I think the only chance we conceded in real was David Clifford's chance, a brilliant save for Dylan Foley, by the way. But that was the only chance across two games that we gave to Dublin and Kerry. But then on the flip side, we didn't score a goal either. That's what we need to improve on, to keep up with these teams properly and to improve strength conditioning. I don't think Cork football has been up to that level for years now. We were up to that level in 2010, even up to 2014, when the likes of Graham Canty, Noel O'Leary were there, Daniel Goulding, Donegal O'Connor. But these players haven't been used to, top level games. We were recently playing in Division 3 in 2020. That's not the level that we want to be at. I know we won every game, easy dubs there. But if we want to really develop, we have to perform against proper Division 2 sides first of all, and then go up to Division 1. When you look at counties, I take for inspiration last year, Derry, for example, they were a bit of a mess a few years ago. In Division 4, they were languishing there. They were in the Division 4 final against Leitrim, but they gained confidence year on year under Rory Gallagher, and he implemented the system. Armagh the same. Like Armagh weren't really blowing down trees as such in the last few seasons. Monaghan weren't before they won the Ulster title in 2013. I would take inspiration from that, but the difference is between those counties and us, we have the resources. It's clear we have the resources. You look at Sports Direct, the stadium, Páirc Uí Chaoimh, it's probably one of the best stadiums in Ireland, other than Croke Park. It probably is, to be honest with you, when you look at the infrastructure there. The amount of money pumped into Cork GAA over the last few years, and of course there was the 5-year plan as well. Like, I think this is the time now where we have to, step up and be counted in the All Ireland series, in my honest opinion there. But first of all, we have to perform well against Division 2 sides. No disrespect to Tipperary, to Clare, to Limerick. They have developed massively over the last few seasons. But if we're going to be serious about challenging Kerry, Dublin, Tyrone, we have to beat these teams out the gate. It's as simple as that. Like, the difference between Clare and Cork, I felt, and this is another bit of encouragement, the quarterfinal, the same day actually last year at Croke Park. Clare looked like they reached the mountain and they can't get any further than an All-Ireland quarterfinal. Cork, there was a bit of a sign of progression. It was just strength and conditioning let us down at the end. That's a bit of a sign there. But if we're going to count good performances last season, we have to go into 2023 performing excellent against Division 2 sides, which is our level at the moment, and then see where it goes from there. Like Cork football, it's a big county. We're the fourth most successful All-Ireland football county in history. We have to start acting like that, and we have to start putting these performances together, starting off in Division 2 next season.
Yeah, and you mentioned 5-year plans and sort of a lot of work that's obviously been put into Cork GAA. I mean, you've had change in sponsorships, obviously the Sports Direct deal, Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and the amount of reinvestment that went in there. And you have had a lot of good underage success, not just in football, but in hurling as well. And particularly in football a couple of years ago, where you won a couple of under-20 All-Irelands, you won a minor All-Ireland as well. So, like, there is a barometer of players coming through, but for whatever reason, it just hasn't quite clicked yet for Cork. Like, you can't deny there is great players in the county, but like, for whatever reason, it hasn't quite clicked, and a lot of those players haven't quite made the step up. Like, why do you think that's been?
It's a difficult one, really. I suppose hurling is a big thing. Like, you've seen this over the last few weeks. Brian Hayes being switched over to the hurlers. Like, he's an excellent footballer, and he switched to the hurlers there. I honestly think he's a better footballer. David Callahan's the same. Mark Keane, who scored that memorable goal against Kerry, is the same. He went to hurling. But, like, you have a group there now this year. Like, I argued over the last few seasons, you have a group of players there that were just putting on the jersey, just waltzing around the pitch, and they're happy to be there, happy to be in a Munster final against Kerry, look at the atmosphere and stuff like that, rather than saying we're going to compete for Cork football here. Now that I look at the team, we have a group of players there that actually want to play for Cork, that want the best for Cork football. You look at the forward line, for example, going into next year, Stephen Sherlock, Brian Hurley, and Colin O'Mahony. We haven't had a settled forward line for years. You look at them three forwards, they're absolutely settled. Stephen Sherlock came in late last year, and he was still one of the top scorers in Championship and League. He was brilliant for the Bars as well. You have to build a team around these players, Brian Hurley, Colin O'Mahony. Even you look at the midfield, Ian Maguire, Colin Buchanan found his best position. Last year, I know he was in that under-20 team that beat Dublin, and he was playing in the forwards, but he moved to midfield last year, and he was probably absolutely outstanding. He was one of our best players. You need to play players in their best positions as well. Like, you have players coming back in. Conor Corbett, who was an excellent minor a few seasons ago, he's back in the fold now. You would have to imagine he'll be going into the half forward line, maybe midfield. And you see with Galway last year, the way they integrated Matthew Tierney, Derry integrating Shea Downey, or Matthew Downey, I forget, one of the Downeys, in slowly but surely. And they eventually become a brilliant player. Conor Corbett can do the same. He's an absolutely incredible talent. There's no doubt about that. But he needs game time. He needs to, get the experience of Croke Park, and even the players coming back as well. Brian O'Driscoll, who didn't do much, to be honest with you, especially in the 17 and 18 era. He was very good for Carbery in the club championship. He's come back in now, and he's added so much to his game since being on the Cork panel. Rory Dean as well, his last game for Cork, he got sent off against Kerry, and he just left the panel afterwards. He's come back in as well. And that's a sign that they believe in John Cleary. They believe in the system. They believe in him as a manager. And even looking, Thomas Clancy's another one. He's come back into the panel as well. So what I see as well, competition for places, and we haven't had that in Cork football for years. You look at our full back situation right now. You have three, I think, very good full backs. Mar Shanley, who started last year, Thomas Clancy, who's come in obviously after a few years out of the panel, and Daniel O'Mahony, who I really rate as an excellent full back. That's three choices there, and it's great to have that competition. Sean Meehan's coming back from injury as well. The guy who marked David Clifford out of the game in Killarney, he's coming back into the panel now. Matty Taylor, Rory Maguire, you have John Cooper, who, in my opinion, would get in the starting 15, but he performed excellent last season. Cian Kiley, who kicked that point. Luke Fahey, he's a very good player coming up as well. So what I notice as well, there's competitions for places all over the field as well. There's a willingness for players to play for Cork, and what we need to do in Division 2, just get a settled team on the field, play them for maybe 3-4 games in a row, see what happens, see where we go from there, and hopefully, bring that consistency back to Cork football again. We've had that in the early 2010s. We need to get that back to actually compete.
Yeah, and I suppose you were mentioning there, obviously, like Kevin Walsh coming into the backroom team. Like, from watching Cork last year, like first hand, obviously at Croke Park, and having watched the games against both Louth and Limerick, like there did seem to be a big shift from. I mean, I didn't see too much of Keith Ricken's early games, but I'm not too sure really what the sort of style or the focus was there. But looking at Cork, obviously in the past under the likes of Ronan McCarthy and a few other sort of Cork managers, there was always an emphasis on attacking football, and that was always the big focus. Whereas under John Cleary and Kevin Walsh now potentially coming in, when you looked at how Kevin Walsh set up Galway, it was often a very, very defensive side, but it did get results, and it did get them, to an All-Ireland semi-final, National Football League final as well. Do you think that's how the approach that Cork are sort of looking towards? Like, when you looked at Kevin, or when you looked at John Cleary last year, you've seen a bit of a defensive approach there. Like, do you think that's how Cork are going to look at it this year?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree that we were really attacking under the likes of Ronan McCarthy. Power Healy, to be honest with you, I don't know what system he was actually trying to play in 16 and 17. With Ronan McCarthy, we were too defensive. That was the problem. We tried to play sweeper systems, and that doesn't suit our style. We tried to play a defensive style in 2019, the league particularly, and I think the players just said, to hell with this, really. We're going to go attack full hell for leather. We did that against Kerry and against Dublin, and it got us some very good performances. But even against Kerry and Dublin, there was still that defensive lapse in concentration that needs to be cut out of our game. And, the tackling wasn't really on point, especially, like, we either were too defensive or we're too attacking. We don't do in between with the likes of Ronan McCarthy. But with John Cleary last year, even without Kevin Walsh in the backroom team, I noticed, against Dublin particularly, the tackling was so ferocious. Against Kerry as well, Sean Powder's block from, I think it was Paulie Clifford early on in the first half, that epitomised Cork last season. It was incredible defence, really. And I suppose the main thing was to get that balance right. I hope, like, Kevin Walsh is a good defensive coach, and I think he will bring, extra defensive solidity. But I hope we are too defensive either. I hope we use the likes of Sherlock, we use the likes of Hurling, we use the likes of O'Mahony, Addy and Maguire moving forward, Colm O'Callaghan, to try and get more scores as well. And I suppose a big thing with not getting big scores, I think the half-forward line was a big thing with Owen McSweeney there, John O'Rourke. They're good players, they're good, honest lads. But when you look at the scores in black and white last year, we managed 22 points out of our forward line in 14 games overall last year. That's not good enough at the high level. We need more scores coming from that line in particular, and we can't just rely on the full forward. The full forward line are unbelievable, there's no doubt about it. But we just can't rely on them getting score after score after score. And with Kevin Walsh, with Galway, I've seen a few Galway fans' opinions, and I've heard that he was a boring tactician in a way, that they play a boring style of football. But as you mentioned there, they got to an All-Ireland semi-final, they got to a league final, and arguably, I know Pádraig Joyce was the guy that ultimately got them to the All-Ireland final and got them very close to Kerry. But Kevin Walsh was the guy to set the standards there in Galway, to get them back up where they needed to be after Alan Mulholland left that Galway team. So he deserves a bit of credit as well. And I'm sure he wrote a book as well. And he seems to be a very good tactician. But what I'm hoping it's not a situation like Cian O'Neill, where it is an absolute disaster in 2021. And I hope Kevin Walsh, gives John Cleary, the right order. Like, John Cleary is the manager of the team. He has to pick the players. Kevin Walsh is going to implement strategy there. Hopefully it works now next year. But to answer your question, I hope we're not too defensive, overly defensive. We have to get the balance right between attack and defence. And we haven't done it over the last few years. Obviously, we've been either too defensive or too attacking. We have to find the balance to compete at the top level, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you were mentioning a few sort of new faces maybe to come in around the panel, and obviously maybe a few players coming back from injury. Conor Corbett's obviously a player that I think a lot of people have been expecting to make the breakthrough for Cork maybe in the next few years. Is there any other players even from club level, from club championships up and down the country, and even at underage level, that you think could come in maybe alongside a Conor Corbett and really make an impact for the senior team this year?
Well, there was a few confirmed over the last few weeks. Darragh Cashman, who was on the minor team with Corbett, he's coming into the panel from Mill Street. Very good wing back himself. Thomas Clancy, the older guard are coming back in. Thomas Clancy's coming back in from Clan. Brian O'Driscoll's coming back in, and he used to be a centre back. Now he plays midfield or centre forward, so he adds a bit of versatility to our game. Rory Dean's coming back into the panel as well. Cathal Maguire, who's Rory's brother from Castlehaven, is coming into the panel as well. And I think I posted on my Instagram page, GA__statsman, that his pass to Michael Hurley in the Cork quarter-final was absolutely immaculate. It was an incredible pass, and I think he scored 5 points overall from playing the big games, 3 points against the Bars. So he's a very good player, and probably the half forward we need around the team. Sean Meehan's coming back from injury. Daniel O'Mahony's coming back. He was in a course in Dublin last year. He's coming back into the panel. You have, obviously, you still have Sherlock, you still have Brian Hurley, you still have Conor O'Mahony in the panel. Peter O'Hanlon might be coming back in as well. He looks fit as a fiddle coming back into the panel. He was injured, obviously, last year. I think tore an ACL last season. He's coming back into the panel. But the main concern, probably, Michael Hurley is confirmed, I think, that he's not coming back, which is a big blow in my opinion. The White brothers and Sean and Mark are not coming back either. I think Brian Hayes has gone to the Hurlers, which I think is a monumental loss to Cork football. I think he's an incredible athlete and a player that we could have built the team around. But look, it's done now. He's gone to the Hurlers. We can't be crying over it. We have to build the team around the likes of Brian Hartnett's another one, actually. He was injured in the last 2 seasons, I think. He's come back into the panel now. Very good player from Douglas. He was in that under-20 team that beat Kerry, Tyrone and Dublin. So he's a very good player. A lot of them under-20 players are coming to age now, which is brilliant to see. You look at Conor O'Mahony, obviously, Damien Gore coming off the bench, Colm O'Callaghan, obviously, Blake Murphy. I'm hoping Blake Murphy comes into the... Like, you seen his quality last year. His goal against Galway is absolutely superb in the league last season. He has quality, there's no doubt about that. But, will he get that consistency? That's the big question about him. Sean Meehan, very good player, obviously. Josh O'Keefe, I'm hoping he comes into the panel as well, the goalkeeper. Daniel O'Mahony, obviously, Mar Shanley, Paul Ring. Hopefully he gets a bit of form going as well, builds up a bit of strength, obviously. I'm hearing he's, improving with strength conditioning over the last while. But another thing, I know Kevin Walsh is coming in, but Rob Heffernan would be very interesting to see what happens with him. He's a performance coach. I'm sure Donegal Cannon's actually come in for Waterford as well. So I actually don't know what the role is there. I think Bernard Dunn came in, correct me if I'm wrong, as a performance coach with the Dublin footballers, Aaron. So maybe he can make a difference, bring that winning mentality. He's won, gold medals, silver medals, a bronze medal at the Olympic Games. So maybe he can bring a bit of winning mentality into this Cork panel. Kevin Walsh obviously has won Cork titles, 2 of them with Galway as manager. So hopefully he brings a winning mentality. And of course, John Cleary, he was an All-Ireland champion with Cork in 89 and 90. So he has that winning mentality as well. So hopefully that will be brought on to the players as well. We'll have to see. But hopefully we'll get a nice balance around the team, and hopefully with competition for places, and hopefully the injuries don't mount like last year. You've seen Sean Meehan and Daniel O'Mahony stepping away or getting injured. Hopefully that's not the case this year, and hopefully we have a full panel to pick from come January.
Yeah, I think Bernard Dunn was actually with the Galway footballers there, just to correct you. But who knows? He might make a way into the Dublin footballers at some point. After all, he is from Dublin. A few comments coming in here. Much appreciated. John says Rory Dean getting called up to the footballers is a joke. And then Hurling 1234 says Cork don't have enough natural footballers. Club championship, poor standard. So two interesting comments there. What are your thoughts on them?
Okay, Rory Dean. Initially, I would have said, yeah, like he didn't perform well in Cleary against Kerry, but look at him in the club championship, particularly for Carbery and for Bantry Blues in the championship this year. It was a sign of a player that wanted to play football and he wanted to get back in the Cork paddle as well. So I'd be all for having Rory Dean in the panel, maybe not as a starter, but as a bench player, maybe to bring on when players are getting tired and stuff like that. So I'm all for Rory Dean. As for the club championship being in poor standard, no, I think people are reading too much into Nemo Rangers winning the club championship in Cork. Like, I think the Bars just got a bit shell shocked, to be honest with you. If you actually watched Castlehaven and the Bars and Castlehaven against Nemo down in Clonakilty, you'd see the amount of players that performed well that day were absolutely incredible. And like, sure, Donegal has been a poor club championship in standard over the last 2 seasons, and they've still found ways into quarterfinals. So, you know, there's that sort of excuses as well. And yeah, I think it's a poor comment, to be honest with you. This club championship is very poor. You haven't clearly watched the Bars, especially in the last few seasons. So yeah, those were comments to them too. And another comment: the Munster final wasn't particularly good quality either, with Kieran O'Reilly's in there. So what does that say about Kerry football? I know Kerry football is unbelievable, but that's the guy's logic, really. Like, you know. So yeah, I'm just making a point.
Yeah, I think maybe recency bias probably creeps in sometimes, but like in terms of Cork maybe not having enough natural footballers, you could maybe argue a little bit with that at this moment in time. I think there is a lot of very, very good players, though, to be fair, like underage players. It just probably hasn't clicked. But I do think when you look down through the years and of club championships with Nemo Rangers and the success of them, Finbars last year, I think it's just one of those years where these things can happen. I mean, Dublin clubs have been caught multiple times in the Leinster Club Championship down the years. It sometimes just does happen. Looking at 2023 then and the National Football League, as you were saying, they're in Division 2 alongside ourselves as well in Dublin, but you've obviously got Derry in there, Meath, Kildare, Limerick, Louth. It's going to be Clare as well. I mean, it's going to be very, very competitive and it's going to be tough for yourselves in there.
It is. It's going to be very, very tough now. But yeah, in terms of the top division, I think like Dublin and Derry are well clear of the rest, to be honest with you. Needs to be back in midfield. That's an interesting comment. I'll touch on that before I touch on the league there. Killian O'Hanlon, I think centre forward would suit him. I seen him against Kerry, particularly in 2020. I thought he was superb there. Maybe play Colm O'Callaghan and Ian Maguire midfield. Killian O'Hanlon centre forward, and Brian Hartnett at 12, probably Conor Corbett at 10. Maybe that could work. You need to have more big men around the field as well. Imagine having a big Killian O'Hanlon centre forward, a powering force, you know. So maybe he can play there. Maybe that's a new position for him. But going back to the league anyway, I think Dublin and Derry are well clear of the rest, to be honest with you, at the top two. Kildare, Cork, it's a difficult one because I think we have a stronger defence, way stronger defence than Kildare. Kildare leaked some terrible goals against Dublin and Mayo last year. They were, in some cases, laughable the way they defended, but their attack is very good. You can't question that. Jimmy Hyland, Darragh Kieran, Daniel Flynn, that's in one attack, you know, that's absolutely incredible. And we probably have a bit more to go to get up to that level. In terms of the other teams, I'd be wary of Limerick. I think they're a very good side. Ray Dempsey's a very good appointment. He's done well with Knockmore in the Mayo Club Championship, and a lot of Limerick strength and conditioning is coming to play there. If Danny Neville somehow comes back to the panel, they could be a threat as well. Clare, Colin Collins is still there, so they're always going to be a threat. It's going to be a tough game against Clare. I think Clare will stay up. Will they challenge promotion? I'm not so sure, because Clare they're the kind of team to just stay up. Meath is an interesting one, Aaron, because Colm O'Rourke is a good coach. I know he's a very good analyst of the Sunday game. He reads the game well. But when you look at the players in Meath, people talk about the players in Cork. I don't see much coming out of Meath, to be honest with you. I don't. I look at the down through the Meath team, maybe Jordan Morris in the forwards, Harry Hogan in goal, and Donald Keoghan maybe at wing back. But other than that, I don't see much players coming out of Meath, to be honest with you. So it could be a difficult one for Meath. Loud, I see them in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. They're a team that sits back. They allow Sam Mulroy to do his thing, and they're going to do the same in Division 2 against the stronger opposition. They're going to sit back. They're going to have about 15 men behind the ball and try and get a draw out of the game. But the flip side of it is, like if Cork, for example, like when you look at the All-Ireland Championship last year, Cork were about 2-3 points ahead every time. What happens then? Loud have to come out, and once they come out, they get exposed then. So, like, that'll be a difficult one for Loud, but they will make it difficult, especially up in Drogheda or wherever they play their games. Like, that'll be a difficult pitch for anybody to go up there. So, yeah, it's going to be a very, very difficult division, much like last year. It's going to be a dogfighted division, and yeah, it's regarded as one of the toughest divisions out of the four. It probably is the toughest, and it's the most crucial as well, because the teams who go down will probably play a Tailteann Cup. Maybe it won't affect the likes of Louth and Limerick too much, but for me, for Cork or Kildare, if they get sucked into that, it could be detrimental for their development, especially for those three county sides. So, yeah, it's a crucial division for not just Cork, but the whole division really are. Even Dublin, like if you don't get out of Division 2 this year, that's going to be a big step for Dublin over the next few seasons. They should get out of Division 2, but you never know. You never know. You look at Derry, you look at Kildare. If Cork somehow get a system there as well, under Kevin Walsh in the coaching staff, Dublin could find it tricky as well. So, yeah, it might not be easier than Dublin or Derry fans think after all.
Yeah, I think the start in these divisions are crucial. And Dublin playing Kildare in the first game and in Crow Park, like the bar really needs to be set there, because you've seen with Dublin last year, a couple of defeats at the start of the league, just confidence was low, and other teams felt they could take us. And I don't think Kildare would have beaten Dublin if Dublin hadn't been as poor in the opening couple of games. To be honest with you, I think they just sensed the scalp. And it is interesting when you mention Meath as well. Like I think they've been very reliant on sort of the crop of players that came through sort of around 2020, 2021, and they're probably waiting a lot of the time for some of these minor footballers who won that All-Ireland a couple of years ago to hopefully make the step up in the next couple of seasons. But ultimately then, where do you sort of see Cork finishing? I guess you're sort of edging towards a mid-table finish. Not really in a relegation battle, but probably not in a promotion battle either.
Yeah, exactly. So in this early stage, I'd probably say fourth for Cork. I'd be very hopeful about this team, John Cleary, implementing his tactics. I just think Kildare at the moment, their forward line is scary. And when you look at Derry and Dublin, they were all out of the semi-finals for a reason last year. I think they're well clear of Cork at the moment. But what I will say about the Dublin factor, Dublin are coming down to Páirc Uí Chaoimh. If Cork somehow make that a bit of an atmosphere, it could be a bit of a tricky game for Dublin there, coming down there. Like I know Dublin don't particularly have the best away record in the league when it comes to that, so it could be a difficult game there. But look, I think Dublin, Derry, Kildare should be well clear of Cork, and I think we'd be probably mid-table, battling with probably Limerick, Clare, probably in around that area. So yeah, to answer your question, probably fourth in the league. Like I can't see us finishing higher, lower possibly, but I'd be optimistic as a Cork fan if we get our team right, if we get a settled team, if John Cleary implements his tactics and Kevin Walsh, of course, maybe we can have a good season and a good platform to build on.
Yeah, and looking ahead to the championship, then obviously a long time away. I know that, but like just looking at the draw, obviously you play Clare in the quarterfinals, and then the winner of that will play Limerick in the semi-final. So you're obviously avoiding Kerry until a potential final, and I think we all know they're going to get to the final. Obviously, they're going to be Tipperary or Waterford in the semi. So, I mean, what's the realistic game, do you think, or what should be the realistic game for Cork in 2023? I mean, like, I think it's fair to say Cork are not going to beat Kerry unless something absolutely crazy happens like 2020. So what's the sort of realistic aim or expectation for the championship in 2023?
If you have to be realistic as a Cork football fan, the Munster final is the aim. undoubtedly. Clare and Limerick, as I said in the chat previously, they're good sides and they've developed over the past 2 seasons. But this is the time now with John Cleary in the team, with a new team coming in, and hopefully we'll get a settled team by the Munster Championship. We have to beat Clare and Limerick. There's no doubt about it. Like, they're excellent sides, obviously. They have very good players. But traditionally, they're not really football counties, are they? Like, Cork has heated tradition with football. We should be beating Clare and Limerick. There's no doubt about that. And I agree with you on Kerry. We're losing that game simply. Kerry are just unbelievable. And looking forward, Kerry will probably win the All Ireland again. Looking at it, I think while we're on Kerry, I think Derry and Armagh could challenge Kerry this year. Could be an Ulster team that caused them a few problems. But other than that, I think this Kerry team is absolutely incredible, and Cork will find it very, very difficult to keep up with them. But if we could get the aim with Kerry, if we could get below 10 points, if we can get to single digits, maybe if we can 5 points, that'll be the big aim for the Cork footballers this season. But and slowly progressing. But we're not going to win anything this year. We're not going to challenge promotion. I don't think we're probably going to get mid-table in Division 2. We're going to get to a Munster final. Maybe we'll scrape a quarter final going to Croke Park again. But I think, look, if we get to 5 points, lose by 5 points to Kerry, it'll have to be a success, and we'll move on again next year with this young crop of players and John Cleary in his first full season as well. So hopefully we'll develop, and we'll give it a right go against Kerry, but we're still going to lose. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and looking at the overall big picture then of the All Ireland and the National Football League, I mean, who are the front runners right now in your opinion? I mean, can anyone stop Kerry? Can Dublin potentially make a push with the band back together? And obviously you've got emerging teams like Derry and Armagh, Galway, I'm sure won't be far away. Mayo are always a team that a lot of people write off, and then they sort of come out of nowhere to at least make a final. So what's your thoughts and sort of predictions going into 2023?
Well, it's an interesting one with Kerry, because I think they're an incredible side, and it's down really to Paddy Talley, the way they've implemented a defensive system. It's incredible. And you look at Shane Ryan, like, it's a settled team now. Kerry know they're starting 15, and that's the level that, for example, Cork need to get at to compete at the top level. In regards to Dublin, it'll hurt you for me to say this, Aaron. I don't think Dublin are challenging Kerry this year. I know Jack McCaffrey and Paul Mannion are back, but my trouble with Dublin is their defensive line. Cluxton was a huge miss in goal. Evan Comerford's a decent goalkeeper, but he's no Stephen Cluxton, without a doubt. You're missing those nitty-gritty players, Philly McMahon, Michael Dar-McCauley. You're missing those sorts of players in the team, and I think that'd be a big blow to Dublin. I think a team that could beat Kerry this year would be either Derry or Armagh. I like the look of them. They were entertaining sides last season. You look at Derry, they remind me of Donegal in 2012. They went into the All-Ireland semi-final very cold in 2011. They produced a pretty poor performance against Dublin. Likewise to Derry against Galway last season. But then the next season with Donegal, they win the All-Ireland. If Derry were to follow that trajectory, I'm not saying Derry are clear All-Ireland contenders or anything, but I just think they could be a team that could challenge Kerry this season. They have a very good system under Rory Gallagher. You look at Chrissy McCaig is still knocking around there, Brendan Rodgers, Shane McGuigan, Conor Glass is incredible in midfield, Emmett Bradley there as well, Niall Loughlin at half forward, very good player. Galway will be thereabouts yet again, but I feel with Galway, they missed their chance last year against Kerry. I know Kerry are an outstanding team, but they got so close last season and they still fell at the last hurdle. Mayo, I think Kevin McStay is an excellent manager. I think it's a very good appointment. And I've seen the documentaries with Ross Common there as well, and he seems to be a very, very good motivator. I just feel with this Mayo team, with Oisin Mullen gone, there's rumours about Lee Keegan going as well. I feel it'll be a year or two before Kevin McStay implements his tactics, same as John Cleary with Cork, before they get challenging again. I think they're obviously higher than Cork at the moment, but I think they'll be up there. In terms of relegation for Division 1, actually, I think there's a clear gap. I think that there's top four with Kerry, Armagh, Galway, Mayo, and then there's a bottom four with Tyrone, Donegal, Monaghan, and Roscommon. Two of those will go down, I'd say. Monaghan, I think they'll struggle. Vinnie Corey's not really a coach there. Roscommon traditionally don't do well in Division 1, so we'll have to see how they perform. Donegal's an Michael Murphy's now gone. How will Donegal react to that? Like, it's a big, big blow for them. And Tyrone, what can you say about Tyrone over the last few months or so? Every player seems to be dropping like flies there. And I don't know how Fergal Logan and Brian Dewar galvanise that team again. You know, it's going to be incredibly, incredibly hard. So, yeah, in terms of the All-Ireland, in terms of the league, I think you'll be looking towards Kerry, Armagh, Derry, Mayo might make a push, Galway might make a push. Well, I think Mayo will take a few years. Galway, I think their chance gone last year. So, yeah, I think Kerry still would be a very, very hard team to stop.
Yeah, Hurling 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's very good chat. You should do a Cork Hurling preview. We actually are going to be discussing the Cork Hurlers in a brief moment as well. And I'll obviously upload that as well at some stage as a separate video in case people happen to miss it in this live stream. But in terms of a surprise package or any team you think maybe could cause a surprise or two sort of lower down divisions, is there any side there you'd look at that you think might take a scalp or two?
I suppose the obvious one for the bottom two divisions is Westmeath. Like, I know Jack Cooney has left there, but Desi Dolan's come in. He's a legend of a player there. And yeah, they have excellent players coming through Westmeath as well. Like Ronan O'Toole at centre forward was excellent. John Heslin, James Dolan, who was on my podcast previously. Ronan Wallace is an excellent centre back as well in that team. So the obvious ones would be Westmeath. Cavan, if they make a push, like Thomas Gallagher's a huge loss to them in midfield. He's an excellent player. But what I will say, Darmac Vity's back. And I honestly believe he's one of the best players up in Ulster. He's an absolute incredible player, quality-wise. In terms of Division 4, I think Sligo are a team definitely to watch. You know, Pat Spallan's still there. Sean Carabine's a very good player. Niall Murphy's still knocking around. Like, they have an excellent team, Sligo. So they will. I think Conor McFadden's come in to the background team there, Donegal legend. So he's a very, very good addition to that Sligo team. Leitrim could be ones as well. Andy Moore trying to get his tactics across there. Down will be interesting as well, Aaron, because Conor Laverty's come in there. The Kilcrew lads will come streaming in, no doubt about it. Like, the question with Down is the willingness there to play for Down? With Conor Laverty there, I think there will be no next year. The question is, next, do they have the quality? And when you look at the Kilcrew players, especially the All-Ireland series, they do have the quality, without a doubt. So I think Down could be a team to watch as well. But we'll have to see over the next few weeks. But yeah, I think Westmeath, probably Down, Sligo as well, especially with Sligo, actually, because they're an easy side of the Connacht draw. And they're most likely going to be in the Connacht final as well. I think they will win Division 4 as well. They're probably the best team in that division. So I think Sligo have the potential to have a very good year, I think. So, yeah, they'd be my picks anyway. So, yeah, should be very interesting with those counties.
Yeah, we'll move on then and discuss the Cork Hurlers ahead of the 2023 inter-county season. Obviously, last year, Cork getting to the league final, obviously losing to Waterford quite comprehensively in the end, and then obviously getting beat in the All-Ireland quarter-finals. So, I mean, looking back at last year, obviously for Cork, I mean, some good moments, some bad moments. You obviously started the Munster round robin very, very slow and couldn't really get going, but then incredibly sort of turned it around, and it actually looked like Kieran Kingston had got a bit of a tune out of these lads. So how would you look back on last year for the Cork Hurlers?
Very mixed bag. I suppose the league, like, I wouldn't really count Division 1 group games as being challenges, because most big teams in hurling know they're not going to get relegated, so they're just going to play B teams. And Cork were really the same. And Cork just probably got lucky against Waterford. They got destroyed in the league final, and it was very, very bad to watch. And then the Limerick game, especially, very poor. I know Shane Kingston scored that early goal, and then things started to go downhill from there. We didn't defend properly. We gave Limerick, I think, over near 30 or 40 chances in the game, especially Park and Keith. You can't allow that against that Limerick team, and especially against Clare. The performance in particular was very poor, you know, and summed up by the red card at the end. But somehow, against Waterford, we somehow found some rhythm. I don't know where it came from. And like that Waterford team winning the league, a lot of people thinking they're going to win this game at a canter, but Cork somehow came out fighting in that game. it was incredible. And Tipperary, no, but I think it was down to the fact that last game, Tipperary were very, very poor last year, and Cork just was to victory in that game. Then against Antrim even, we struggled badly. Antrim could have won that game on any other day if things just went their way at some point in the game. Antrim could have beat Cork. And then in the quarterfinal against Galway, it was a case of, even the Galway fans are admitting this, Galway didn't win it, Cork lost it. The amount of chances we missed in that game were kind of inexcusable. Like Connolly had, I don't know how many missed frees he had in that game. And yeah, it was a pretty poor end to the year, but Kieran Kingston's gone now. We have Pat Ryan coming in. And I think I've said this to many Cork fans over the past few weeks or so. I think he's coming in under the radar. When you look at Davy Fitz coming in at Waterford, Liam Catlin at Tipperary, I think, and Brian Nolan obviously, and John Coyne being excellent last season. I think a lot of people are looking at Cork and Pat Ryan, even though he's won 220 titles. His CV is very, very good. Like he did very well at Sarsfields as well, and he should have been in the Cork hurling job, I think, earlier, in my opinion. He's an excellent, excellent coach. So we'll see how it goes this season. And there's been some good performances in the Cork hurling championship. I wouldn't say it's the best quality of hurling championship, to be honest with you, but it's another year of Cork hurling fan, and we're edging towards 20 years without Northern Ireland, and that's not good enough for Cork whatsoever. And we have to perform better than this, and this hopefully will be the start of a new era. But as I've said before this, in years and years gone by, Limerick look an absolute animal of a team. They're absolutely incredible, and it's hard to see anybody stopping them this season. They're an incredible team, but hopefully Cork will get to an All-Ireland semi-final at least this season, and get to know what it feels to, be at the end of a heartbreaking defeat in the semi-final, and maybe it'll drive on the players even more. But we'll see how it goes this season. But I don't think All-Ireland is in this team, not this season anyway, when you look at Limerick.
Yeah, and obviously Kieran Kingston stepping down as Cork manager. He'd obviously been there, I think 4 years at the helm, and obviously in his time he obviously got Cork to that All-Ireland final in 2021, which they're comprehensively beat by Limerick. But like, how would you look back at Kieran Kingston's time overall as manager of the Cork Hurlers, and ultimately, like, where did it go wrong, do you think, when you look back?
Jeez, like, I think a load of things actually went wrong. The team selection was a big thing. A lot of people, I know Cork fans are saying this over and over again, that Patrick Harkin should start, but in my honest opinion, he's past his best now. He has to be on the bench. And I think there was that sort of willingness for Patrick Harkin to start. I don't think he's that good anymore, to be honest with you. We should have started young talents, Alan Connolly, Colin O'Brien, Seamus Harden even, I think, is a better player right now than Patrick Horgan. We've been putting Shane Kingston on the bench when I don't know what was the issue there, to be honest with you. He's probably our best forward. We still stick him on the bench for some strange reason. And I think the 2021 run, in particular, the All-Ireland final, I've said this before as well, we had an easy run to the final when you look at it. We played against a Clare team that were trying to find their feet, and Clare could have beat us that day. We were playing a Dublin team that were affected by COVID, and then we played a Kilkenny team who I thought were very, very poor that season, and we still could have beat them after 70 minutes of action. So, and then it just showed in the All-Ireland final, Limerick absolutely wiped us, So, I think the 2021 run, a lot of people were getting their hopes up, and then in the league form as well, we beat Limerick. I remember that specific day in the Gaelic grounds when we beat Limerick, and a lot of people were saying Cork for the All-Ireland. We're turning a corner now. The famine is over, and I was just saying, relax, lads. It's the league. Limerick aren't putting out a strong team. They were putting Barry Hennessy in goal instead of Nicky Quaid, for example. So, we need to be performing in Munster Championships. The league is just for trying out new players, and we have to do that again this year. Try out the likes of Stephen Cotton, Colin O'Brien, all these players, and Brian Hayes, now that he's gone to the Hurlers. If he's gone to the Hurlers, we may as well use him now. So, that's the way we have to go about this year. Not to put too much emphasis on the league now, and put out a team that's kind of experimental, and then go hell for leather to the Munster Championship after that. And we have to get over the group after that as well and get to an All-Ireland semi-final. That's the minimum aim for Cork, to be honest with you. But you have to win All Irelands. I don't think we're going to win it this year, to be honest with you. Pat Ryan will be stamping his authority on the team, and we'll have to see how it goes this season. But yeah, I think this year is a bit too soon for that.
Yeah, why do you think the appointment of Pat Ryan has gone under the radar? Because obviously you mentioned there, like Davy Fitz going into Waterford, Liam Cahill obviously going to Tipperary, you know, you'd Michal Donoghue going to Dublin, like a lot of big profile managers. Do you think that's sort of the main reason why Pat Ryan has gone under the radar? And what is the buzz and expectation like? Because as you said, he's won under 20 All Irelands. He's done very well at club level, very good reputation in Cork. So, like, I'd imagine amongst Cork circles anyway, there is a lot of hype, even if it's not like that on the outside.
Yeah, I suppose like it's been very quiet over the last few weeks. Like I've heard hurling fans in around the area, around Cork City, and yeah, there hasn't been much talk about it, to be honest with you. Like I remember when Keith Ricken was coming into the footballers, and there was a lot of hope and expectation and all that. There's been none with that with Pat Ryan, and he won 220 titles. But I suppose the reason for that is, as you mentioned, Michal Donoghue going into Dublin. Obviously, Derek Lyng going into Kilkenny. There was a lot of talk about Brian Cody retiring as well. Davy Fitz with Donegal Cahill for Barnes Fitz family going in Waterford. Liam Cahill going in at Tipperary. Excuse me. And you look at Clare and Limerick performing well over the last year as well. So there hasn't been much hype really. And when you look at the Cork, the quality really of the Cork Championship, and the fact the Bars lost to Ballyhane, the club championship as well, I don't think there's been much talk, to be honest. But again, that could be a good thing, Like there was a lot of, after the All-Ireland final, people were saying, "Oh, Cork will recover. We'll be back next year. We're going to chase the Liam McCarthy for the first time since 2005." Excuse me again. There's been none of that talk this season, and I suppose that's been a good thing. I think, like, let Waterford have Davy Fitz, let Tipperary have Liam Cahill, let them get their hopes up, and we'll, sit quietly in the long grass, as Donal Cusack would say. So, yeah, I suppose it has gone under the radar because of the new appointments elsewhere, and yeah, I suppose because of our performances last year, they were so poor. That's probably the reason it's gone under the radar. But again, with Pat Ryan's record, I'm kind of surprised at the whole thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and as you said there, like there definitely should be a lot of buzz and excitement sort of amongst Cork circles. Like it kind of does remind me a little bit. I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen, but when John Coyley went to Limerick, like he did great record sort of at underage level with Limerick. He'd been heavily involved with Limerick sort of behind the scenes, but he probably didn't have a big reputation as an ex-player, or he wasn't really well known too much sort of outside the county. And obviously John Coyley's first year with Limerick, they were beaten in the championship. They didn't have a championship win, but we all know sort of what happened next. So I think that could almost be a good thing in some ways that he is going under the radar, Pat Ryan, because like a lot of people mightn't be as prepared for a Cork, as maybe you're going up against, Tipperary and Liam Cahill, sort of what he's going to bring to the table. Davy Fitz, very well renowned for setting up his teams in a particular type of way, and you'll probably see Waterford set up maybe quite similarly to the likes of Wexford, Clare, and even Waterford in the past as well. So, I mean, with Pat Ryan obviously coming in there, I mean, it's going under the radar, and I think it could be of big benefit to Cork.
I think it will be, yeah. There's been a lot of hope, even with Jimmy Murphy coming in, Kieran Kingston coming in initially, John Moyler. There was a lot of hope around and expectation around Cork hurling over the last few seasons. But I think with this going in under the radar and not being talked about often, especially around Cork, I think that's a positive thing, because the pressure is off the players. The shackles are off. They could just go into this year and not feel the pressure off the media in a way. Like the media pressure will go on Davy Fitz and Waterford, will go on Tipperary. In some ways, Michal Donoghue and Dublin, let's not forget, Michal Donoghue was an All-Ireland champion, so there will be pressure for Dublin to deliver. Even Kilkenny, because of the way they performed last year, getting to the All-Ireland final, and Derek Lyng to replace Brian Cody. I think there's more pressure actually on Derek Lyng than there is on Pat Ryan. That might be a bold statement now, but I think there is, considering what Brian Cody did previous to Lyng, so it's going to be a very interesting year how we perform. But I suppose the league won't have the biggest barometer. It's just about trying out new players. The biggest barometer of where this Cork team is developing is the Munster Championship, the group phase of that. If we perform well in that, we'll do well this season. If we don't, simple, we're out of the championship. And you get one chance at it. You get 4 games. You have to win about 2 of them. We have to target 2 wins there at least. Maybe a third, maybe a draw and 2 wins or something like that. Maybe don't target the Limerick game as often because Limerick are just streets ahead of the rest. And maybe go for the Clare, Waterford, the Tipperary games, head for later in those games. Now, let's not forget with Tipperary. I know Liam Cahill is a good appointment, but this is the same Tipperary team that fell flat in their face last year against Cork. I thought that was, looking at them, that was one of the worst Tipperary teams I've ever seen. It was just lifeless at times. Waterford as well, there's this record of Waterford don't do well in the Munster Championship, in the group phase particularly. It doesn't suit their style. Maybe Davy Fitz will change it, who knows. Clare, I think Clare will have a lot of pressure on them this year as well. After reaching out of the semi-final, after performing so well against Limerick, there'll be a pressure on those players to perform well again this season. And, there's not that pressure with Cork this year, this time around. So I think it's going to be brilliant for Pat Ryan just to try out a few new players for the league and, give it a right good go in the Munster Championship and, let Waterford Tipperary off with their shiny new appointments.
Yeah, and even thinking of that Munster round robin, as you said, I mean, it's gonna be so tough in there, so competitive, as it always is. With the Munster round robin, you always nearly feel sorry for the 2 teams who miss out because of the fact that of how ruthless it really is. 1 or 2 defeats, you're gone. The standard in Munster is clearly a lot higher than Leinster. I think it's been like that for a couple of years. I know Kilkenny have sort of done well in Leinster, but I think aside from them, I know Galway are improving, but looking at that Munster round robin, it is going to be so tough with Limerick, with Waterford, Tipperary. There is a lot of change amongst a lot of sides, and obviously Clare, a very, very good side, very good year last year. So, I mean, where do you think Cork could end up amongst that Munster round robin?
It's very tough to call at this early stage. I think, if you were to park the management appointments for now, I think Tipperary would be bottom. To be honest with you, when you look at the group of players there at the moment and the way they performed last year, you'd have to put them last. Second, you'd probably have to put Cork, to be honest with you, in fourth. But at this early stage, it's still impossible to call. Maybe Pat Ryan will change her opinions as the year goes on. We'll have to see about that. I'd see Clare probably third and Waterford second. Let's not forget with Waterford, they won the league for a reason last year. They're an incredible side. They have Austin Gleeson, Stephen Bennett, a lot of them players around midfield. Jamie Barrett as well, very good player. And a lot of the Ballygunner lads coming back into the fold as well for next season. We'll see how they perform on tomorrow's game on TG Carr now. But a lot of them players are in that Waterford team. They're an excellent side, and Limerick top, obviously. They're an incredible side, and they'll probably win the All-Ireland in the game. But if you're talking to me now, probably fourth, but it'll probably change as the year goes on, because as we know with the Munster round robin, anything can happen. It's an incredible championship. And as you said, you nearly feel sorry for the 2 teams going out of it. Even the last 2 seasons, I think Clare went out in 2019, and people really felt sorry for Clare that season. They didn't perform particularly badly per se, but it was just the team there. I think Cork, Limerick and Tipperary were just better than on the year. Tipperary won the All-Ireland, Limerick are an incredible side, and Cork got their mojo going. So, and Pat Horgan was incredible that year as well, which helped. So, it's a ruthless business, the Munster Championship, and it should be very interesting. No different again this time round.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, looking at it then for Cork in the overall aspect of the championship, what is the aim, the expectation then? Is it just to get out of Munster round robin, see where you go from there, or could maybe Cork go on a run, do something special, maybe like 2021? I mean, as you said, I think everyone at this point would agree that Limerick are the front runners, and unless you're Buff Egan, you're not going to be betting against them. So, I mean, what do you think there with Cork? How's the year going to go?
Yeah, you have to mention Buff Egan there, Aaron. Yeah, nice commentary there. But usually the expectation with Cork is to win the All-Ireland. There's nothing, lower than that. It's Cork. It's a tradition with Cork hurling. But for me, if Cork get to the All Ireland semi-final, it's a success this season because of the way we performed last season, the poor performances, and the fact we're probably so lucky with the draw in 2021. If we can get a big scalp, if we can beat someone like a Kilkenny or well, we're not going to beat Limerick, let's be honest with you. But if we beat a Waterford team on form, if we beat a Kilkenny, if we beat a Galway, that'd be a success this season, and it's something we can maybe build on. If we get out of the Munster group, to be honest with you, that's a success in my book because it's such a tough championship to get out of. But it's a tough one. I would say semi-finals maybe is probably the aim for Cork hurling this season. But to get out of the Munster group is going to be brilliant as well, considering the tough nature there is. But to win All Ireland, I know it's the expectation of Cork, but I think we're way off Limerick at the moment. We're probably way off the likes of Kilkenny, Galway, Waterford if they're on form. So it's going to be difficult to do that. But if we reach an All Ireland semi-final, that'll be a success in my book.
Yeah, and you were saying there as well, it has been nearly 20 years since Cork won an All Ireland in hurling. It's been such a long drought, the longest drought the county has ever been on in terms of not winning an All Ireland at hurling level, at senior level. So do you think that weight of expectation or anything like that sometimes looms over Cork at times, in those sort of big games or big moments, and maybe that's sometimes a reason for I suppose dropping short at times in those big games?
You have to say it is because the real expectation in Cork, if you get to an All Ireland semi-final, it's a failure. To me, in my book now, it would be a success this season. But to the hurling strongholds in East Cork and Cork City, the aim for Cork is to win the All Ireland each and every year. Nothing less is acceptable. But you have to put into consideration as well. I know this might seem sound kind of like an excuse here, but we've interacted with a brilliant Kilkenny side under Brian Cody that won, 8 All Irelands in 10 years. And we also came up against a Limerick side. They're just unbeatable at the moment. They're absolutely incredible. And you can't see a way that Cork can beat this Limerick side. You look at the strength of them, the physicality, the managerial master in John Coyley. How will we beat this Limerick team? So the general expectations to win the All Ireland, and maybe it has dawned on the players, especially in the game against Galway last year. That's why they missed so many chances, maybe. But yeah, I don't think there'll be expectation as such this season. But it is a difficult one, difficult one to comprehend. We are one of the best. We're probably in history terms, we're the second most successful hurling team in history, behind Kilkenny. So, it's really a difficult one. But for this season alone, I don't think there should be any pressure on the players. Look at the managerial appointment that's going around, and the fact we performed so poor last season. But we'll have to see now this year if it dawns on players. But maybe that's an excuse that Kilkenny and Limerick are just incredible. Maybe it's just Cork fans crying. I'm not sure, but yeah, maybe it has dawned on players. It's hard to know, really. It's hard to know with the performances we put over the last few seasons.
Yeah, and obviously, as we were saying, in terms of general predictions, has anyone beaten Limerick this year? Can anyone come close? They've won 3 in a row, 4 in a row is coming soon. I think the general discussion amongst a lot of GAA supporters as well is that, they could even come for Dublin's sort of record of 6 in a row. And, obviously it's in Gaelic football, not hurling, but in terms of the overall aspect of GAA, they could be onto something hugely special. So, can anyone stop them? I don't know. What do you think?
No. Short answer, aren't no at all. This Limerick team is incredible. It'll be there for a few number of years. And you look at the age profile of some of these players. Key age in under 21, I think in 2016, and right now, doing the maths, he's 28 years of age. That's 2 years off 30, And by then, Limerick will win the 5 in a row, and they could be up for 6 in a row then. Oh, jeez. It's going to be another championship that's going to be boring in terms of that next season. I think this Limerick team is incredible. Kilkenny, I think, will fall even further with Brian Cody gone. Derek Ling, we don't know what he'll bring to the table. Galway, I think Galway could be a team to watch in terms of getting to All-Ireland final if they're lucky. Henry Shefflin's a good coach, and I think he's implemented his team. I think he's a good coach there. Waterford, if they get over that hurdle of the Munster round robin, maybe they could cause a few problems. But in terms of the bigger picture, the All-Irelands, no one's stopping Limerick, unfortunately. I think this Limerick team is absolutely incredible, and yeah, we could be in for a few more number of boring years. But for you, Aaron, that record with Dublin 6 in a row could be under scrutiny because this Limerick team ain't stopping.
Yeah, and I've always kind of liked Limerick, to be fair. Like, house shared with people on a J1 from Limerick. I've always had time for the good old Limerick folk, but I don't know, I might have to start supporting other teams this year. I might have to do a buff on it and maybe start supporting Clare and everything else. I suppose lastly, before we finish up, there was a comment from John who said, do you think Sean Meehan will be a big influence for the upcoming season? He was a huge loss for 2022. You saw how things changed when he was taken off versus Galway. Exactly,
John. I actually forgot about that. Thanks for the comment there. Yeah, we performed excellent against Galway. People might seem to forget that. The All-Ireland finalist in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, Blake Murphy, scores a brilliant goal. We were brilliant defensive. Would you see him as a number 3 or number 6? Probably a number 6, because Daniel O'Mahony would probably be number 3, in my honest opinion. Like, you look at Bar Shanley or Thomas Clancy coming back. So I'd actually play him as a number 6, but I could see him as a number 3 as well. He's that versatile, Sean Meehan. He's an excellent player. And he got an All-Star nominee, and he marked David Clifford out of the game for a reason. But John makes a very good point there. Once he went off against Galway, Damien Comer and Shane Walsh just did their thing and absolutely blitzed Cork. From then on, we lost by 8 points in the end. But before Shane Walsh's brilliant goal, I'm sure Cork were, if memory serves me correctly, Cork were 2 points down at that point. So Sean Meehan's going to be an excellent introduction for Cork, and Daniel O'Mahony and Ciaran O'Hanlon. That's my point with Cork. Like, we have a lot of players that were injured last year coming back into the fold this year. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Sean Meehan coming back into the panel, and yeah, should be very interesting.
Perfect stuff. Well, look, appreciate you jumping on as always, Matthew. Make sure to check out the GAA Statsman podcast over on Instagram and on Spotify, YouTube, all social platforms when people get a chance. And if they could leave a like and subscribe, would be very much appreciated. So cheers, Matthew, for coming on. And who knows, I might see you in Páirc Uí Chaoimh maybe in February at some stage for that game.
Jeez, I hope you're right there, Aaron. But no, I'm doing Erasmus in Scotland, so I will not be in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. I'll probably be watching the game on GAA Go. So maybe we could do a live stream then. Who knows? Like, watching the game, that'd be brilliant. Sure, I think it's live on TG Car if memory serves me correctly. But yeah, pleasure, man. Pleasure to be on the channel again, and hopefully Cork will perform better than last season in both codes in hurling and football. It is possible, so we'll have to wait and see.